God bless you guys, and thank you for tuning in to Let's Talk About It again. Today I am alone, not accompanied by my husband, who you guys seem to love so much on these episodes, but he'll be with us soon. We have a new episode coming and brewing, really good hot topic that you don't want to miss, and we definitely need his unfiltered perspective and input on that. So stay tuned, that is to come soon. But today we'll circle back to where we left off on our marriage series. We talked about a silent killer, and that just being lack of intentionality and effort on both sides of it, right? Both for women and men. We both are guilty of doing that, of no longer doing and making time for all those small things that maybe we did when you were in pursuit of this person, right? And we talked about, men, right? If it was buying flowers, if it was, making sure your wife was taken care of. For women, if it was, just making sure you were cute, like you looked cute, you looked put together around your spouse, maybe doing, a special meal that they like small things, big things. There's a lot that stops happening because we get married, and it's technically not supposed to be that way. Although, of course, every season we pivot, right? When you start to have kids, that'll look different. We pivot, dates might look different, but the effort and the intentionality is consistent and should always be there. So that's what we talked about last time that we were here. And today we're going to talk about another marriage killer that's just not as silent, but it is probably maybe even more deadly than not putting in any effort. And we're going to talk about when we decide and take on our spouse as some sort of fixer-upper project. And we're gonna dissect it. We're gonna break it down. I want to read to start Proverbs 27, 15 and 16. Little harsh words. We're gonna read through it. It says, "A quarrelsome wife is like the dripping of a leaky roof in a rainstorm. Restraining her is like restraining the wind or grasping oil with the hand." So impossible. And for anyone who quarrelsome is like too complicated of a term, no shame. I had to look it up because I like very specific. I also like to elaborate on what something means even when I know what it means, because usually the definition broken down provides even more further perspective. Quarrelsome describes a person, group, or behavior that's argumentative, quick to pick fights, and highly contentious. So I know this verse, right, is geared towards the wife. That is what it is talking about, but we're not going to be biased here. We'll talk about how husbands do this too, because there are some husbands that take on their wives as a fixer-upper project. So we're going to talk about that today, how that kills marriages, and it has a detrimental impact. So we're going to talk about that. And what does that mean, right? Obviously everybody kind of has an idea of what a fixer-upper is. You buy a home, it's not in the best shape, but you see the vision. You have a vision, right? You see the potential. That's the word. You see the potential. Now, I hear there's a saying that you shouldn't marry potential. That's something that's said out there. Nor here nor there. I think you should marry who God has for you, and you should have discernment of the Holy Spirit to know who you are called to be with. But that's another episode. We're going to focus on that, right? The whole potential part, right? And how we were not designed to marry someone and try to get them to whatever potential we see in them. So hear me out, right? I'm not saying that it is bad to see potential in who you are with. I think if anything, you should see greater potential. The person that you are married to today, you should be able to see them 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line and know that this person will be a different person, but your thoughts in terms of potential should be great, right? Like, you're great right now, but you have the potential, like I know you have the potential to do maybe specific things, right? Like maybe right now you guys have plans. So if you're looking out to the future, it's okay for you to see your spouse as a potential entrepreneur, right? If you know that that's something they're passionate about, it's on, the vision board, it's a goal that you guys have together, it's just not in actuality now. That's totally okay for you to say that you see the potential in them to be a great leader, to run an not-for-profit organization. Like there's nothing wrong with seeing great potential in your spouse. The problem happens when we turn potential into, this is now my project. to get you to where I potentially see you. That is not our job. And that's what we're going to talk about, because it becomes a really huge killer to marriages. And I read this verse because it's a harsh verse, but it's very true, right? When we hear the word quarrelsome, again, just very argumentative, nitpicky, like somebody very, very hard to deal with. Like you can almost not get them to shut up. It pretty much sounds like nagging to me, right? And that's what a lot of times, I will speak from a female perspective, we turn into, right? We turn into caretakers. We turn very mom-ish when it comes to our spouses. And not to say that it doesn't happen right from male to, you know, their spouse, their wives. It definitely does. But I'll speak from, at least on our stance, we tend to have a tendency to want to fix things, want to improve things, want to better things. Like women are just very action. Like, what's the plan? Like I always tell my husband, if we're having an argument or in a disagreement, like I'm at the end game. I'm like, okay, what's the solution? Like, cool, agree to disagree. Where's the solution? I'm a solution based person. Like I'm just like, what do we need to do to move forward? And I think that many women are like that in all areas of life, right? So a lot of times that trickles into our marriage. It can be a good thing in certain areas, but then in our marriage, we're very like, okay, this is where I see you in 5 years. How do I get you there? And that's where we need to take a step back, right? Because then we become these quarrelsome wives that the Lord is talking to us about, essentially in His Word, like someone impossible to be with. And there are marriages that have ended, and even if they haven't gotten to the point of ending, there are many marriages that are miserably together. And this is exactly what they're experiencing. They're just experiencing a sense of, I'm not enough. Nothing that I do is enough. This person is here trying to fix me. And then you start ending up feeling like you're broken. There must be something wrong with me. And it has a detrimental effect, not just to the marriage itself, that covenant, but it has a detriment to the person, right? That's on the receiving end of, I need to fix you. And it does two things, right? It puts pressure on the person thinking they need to fix someone. And it also puts pressure on the person that you are trying to fix, right? That spouse is on the receiving end. This is what happens a lot of times when we try to take on a spouse as a fixer-upper and just trying to fix them. We end up revealing all the pieces that might not be necessarily broken, but that we think could be better. So what you end up doing is magnifying every single flaw, magnifying every single opportunity, and you never get to see all the great qualities, all the great things that this person you're married to is doing, because you've now become this nagging person over all the little things that could be better, all the little things where you see potential, all the little things that you think could improve and you want to fix so bad. And so I wanted to talk about that tendency that we have to just make things better. It's not a bad tendency, but when we apply it to marriage, it is. Because what happens when we decide, my spouse is now my fixer-upper project, I need to fix them, I need to make them like they're a good version, but I need to make them an even better version to live up to whatever potential I see. You are now taking on God's place. And I'll elaborate. That's a very dangerous territory to get into. I don't want to be God, not for a day, not for a day in my life. That's a very hard job, and only God can do it the way that He does. When you decide, I see potential, I'm going to fix this person, it is my job to let them know all the areas that they need to improve. We are now diminishing who God has created them to be, like who they are. We are diminishing that. We're taking away from that. What we're also doing now is imposing our vision, our desires, our design, our vision of who they are potentially onto them, not even knowing, does that even line up with who God wants them to be 5-10 years down the line? So here I am pushing my agenda, and by doing that, I am now pushing God's design for this person aside. Now we're going to talk about what we are called to do, both as husband and wife. We're called to sharpen each other, right? If we keep reading that same verse, Proverbs 27, really good one. We read 15 and 16. 17 says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And we oftentimes get that very twisted, right? and we think, okay, iron sharpens iron, so that means like I need to point out all the things that are wrong with you so you can fix them. I need to keep reminding you who you are, like your potential, what you could be doing, who you could be, so that you can get there. Like I'm supposed to push you in that way, and we get that part wrong. When it talks about sharpening iron, right, there's a focus on myself. Like the primary focus is always on the Lord, right? So if I'm focused on myself, I'm focused on who the Lord calls me to be. Like I'm looking inward, I'm examining myself, I'm making sure I am being the wife that I am called to be. That's how I'm going to sharpen my husband. It's not by not looking inward and looking all at my husband, pointing out all the things that are wrong with him and vice versa, right? If a husband decides to take on their wife, right, as I see potential, like she could be this, she could be doing this, she could be so much better, and I'm going to push her towards that, you don't end up sharpening anything, because what ends up happening is you're no longer looking inward. So you're no longer realizing who you are, where you're lacking, and you're no longer working on yourself, because now you've taken on this full-blown project of fixing someone else, when the reality is we were never meant to fix anyone else. We were always meant to focus on Jesus. And when we look inward and we're focusing on Jesus, Jesus reveals, how can I be better? Where are my areas of opportunities? And by strengthening and leaning on the Lord to strengthen those areas of opportunities, right? To rest on him where I am weak, right? Where my flaws that he knows because he designed me. When I rest and depend on him to cover and fix all of that within me, I'm allowing him to do his job in me. And by him doing his job and perfecting his work in me, what that then does is that sharpens me so that I can then sharpen my spouse. So looking inward is the only way that we get to that part of Proverbs 27 where we can sharpen each other, which is what we're called to do. So when you think about, you are meant to be with this person to bring out, sort of say, the best in each other. It's opposite of that, actually. Iron sharpens iron mean, the Lord is working in me and I'm focused on the Lord, I'm focused on ourselves, I will start to sharpen you. So your spouse is ultimately going to reveal in you the things that still need to be worked. That is what iron sharpens iron means, right? It means every time like we're up against it, we're having maybe a disagreement, it should reveal things in me. I should be looking inward. I shouldn't be trying to fix the other person's perspective, to fix how the other person's handling or taking on, right, the disagreement. That's not what we're called to do. So we need to stop playing God. And I believe we have a really big tendency to do that a lot of times. And the danger in this is that it usually starts small. We usually do not notice that we are doing it as we are doing it. But if you reflect back and you start to think and you're like, when's the last time that I actually said thank you to my spouse for doing something? When is the last time I gave them a compliment on a job well done? When is the last time that I said something nice? Like if we start to play the tape back in our head, you'll realize if you've fallen into this trap, when all you can remember is you're kind of just giving orders and commands at all times, reprimanding, correcting, not positively reinforcing things, and always acknowledging the bad. Like if you can look back and you see yourself acknowledging and nitpicking at all the things that were done wrong, like, oh, you took out the trash late, I told you to do it yesterday. If that's what the conversation sounds like, I told you to fold these clothes this way, but you did it this way, instead of thank you so much for folding that, let me show you how I would like it to be folded. That's a little bit different, right? That's now course correcting, coming to a common place where everybody can kind of be happy. We are acknowledging what they did. But when we get into this quarrelsome status of wanting to like fix the other person, we literally turn so naggy and like just such a negative person to be around. And that's something that definitely kills marriages, because you almost don't even want to try. You feel like everything you do is wrong. You may even feel less than, because your spouse, all they do is focus on your flaws and focus on how you could be better, and are always trying to push you and push you and push you, and the pushing becomes too much. Because we're called to push, but it's done in a different way. It's done through support, it's done through love, and it's done through, again, my focus being on God and God working within me. I'm now being sharpened, so I can now sharpen my husband, and my husband, if he's doing the same thing, he can then, the Lord can use him to sharpen me. That was the design. I love how we're always twisting like the Lord's design. The Lord has a design, the Lord has a way, a structure in which we should follow, and He gives it to us in His Word. But we always kind of just do things, go off script, and do things our way. And this is one of those things, right? Trying to take on a spouse as like a fixer up, or like, I'm gonna fix you, I'm gonna make you better. We are going to be better together, right? We are, by sharpening each other, though the focus is never on your spouse. And I think that is something that's been very life-changing for my marriage specifically. And I've been candid here about where my spouse and I were years ago when we first got married. It was not good. Like, we didn't have any honeymoon phase. We almost did get a divorce, like very much. That was very much the next step where we were headed. And one of the things that changed my perspective completely and helped in really reconciling things within my marriage was a program, sort of say, or something I did called Mrs. Better Half. And it was all about that, like being better yourself, like focusing on you. And that completely changed my perspective, because prior to going through that course, my mind was all on everything my husband did wrong, all his flaws, and all the things that I was unhappy with about him. And again, the potential, right? Like, I see you as this potentially great man of God, and like, these are all the things that you currently don't possess, but I would love you to possess. And I felt like it was my job. And it wasn't until I went through that where I had to redirect my mind, and I had to remember, He belongs to God, just like I belong to God and God is working in me. I need to trust that the Lord is also working in him. And that's what it's supposed to be. It's the Lord working in us individually, and then when we come together, it's glorious, like it's wonderful. That is what it's designed to be. But we always have to take a step back and have that realization, like I did years ago. And it was honestly marriage changing for me. Now, every single time that I want to point something out in my husband, and that's not to say you can't have constructive conversations, but now every time I want to point something out, I also look at myself before I speak, right? And I think, is this revealing something in me? Is there something in me that could be better, that could cause an impact in this certain thing changing? And it's really about becoming better, you as the individual, and not trying to make this person better, because by focusing on yourself, that's really when things start to shift. Your spouse belongs to the Lord. Like, they are in the Lord's hand. That is the Lord, right? And even if they don't serve God, that's your prayer. Like that literally is how much it shifted for me. My prayer was no longer fix him. It was, Lord, fix me. Like, glorify yourself in me, reveal in me, and take out everything that shouldn't be here. Help me be the wife that you called me to be. Help me be the wife, Lord, that your word asks me to be. Help me be the best. I focused so much and zeroed in so much on becoming the best wife that I could, even if I felt like my husband at the time didn't deserve that version of me, because he wasn't great at the moment. I felt like, nope. My perspective completely shifted and was like, nope, this is not about deserving or not deserving. You guys are married. You're called to focus on yourself. And as you press on to God and focus on yourself and you becoming better, trust me, the Lord works. The Lord works. It's one of the things that completely changed my marriage. And that's why I really wanted to talk about that, because I know I'm not the only one that has once upon a time just been across from my spouse, and all I can think about are like the 120 things that I think are wrong with him. And even if there's 10 great things, I'm no longer looking at that. I'm no longer talking about that. And now I've just become this nagging, quarrelsome wife that's always at your throat about all your flaws, all your imperfections, as if you need a daily reminder of that. Who would want that? Imagine someone in your ear every single day reminding you all the areas in which you fall short, because we all have them. Nobody wants to live that way, and that is not a joyous union whatsoever. Those are the type of women that you don't want to come home to. And I don't know about y'all, but I want my husband to love coming home to his wife, to be thirsty to come home to me, right? Because I'm welcoming him with open arms, right? Not because, oh my God, he knows he's going to be received by somebody that's just going to nag him about something he did and he didn't do it to my standards. That's not what we're called to do. We're not called to fix a spouse. We're not called to take on our spouses as fixer-uppers. So if you are doing that, pray about it. Pray that the Lord may shift your perspective so that you are viewing everything within you. So that your prayer is no longer, Lord, fix him. He's broken. Change this, change that in him. No, ask the Lord to change you. Ask the Lord to work in your life. Ask the Lord to perfect himself in you. And in doing that, and in looking inward and focusing on yourself and on the Lord doing his work in you, trust me, the Lord is also going to be working on your spouse. And the results when God is at work, amazing. Guarantee it. Amazing. So continue to pray for your spouse. But the prayer is, Lord, he's in your hands. You know him. Do what you got to do. That majority of that prayer shouldn't be a list of everything wrong with him and how God should fix it. It really needs to be about you. That is the best gift that you can give your marriage. And that is how we get to that Proverbs 27:17, where iron sharpens iron. It's when we focus on ourselves and stop looking at our spouse as someone that is broken or isn't good enough and needs to be fixed or needs to be made a better version through your hands. That's not our job. That's not what we're called to do. We leave them in the hands of the Lord. He's always at work. And we focus on ourselves and the Lord perfecting himself in us. And us becoming the best version of a wife, husband, if that's what you are. Focus on that. On being the best. Because a lot of times that's another thing. We demand a lot from the other spouse. But what are you bringing to the table? Are you working on yourself? You want this person to change 100 things, and maybe you have 150 things you need to change. But because we're not looking inward, we're not letting the Lord work in us, we're missing out. We're not even seeing that. It's flying right over our head. So that is my prayer, my advice that has changed my marriage, and I give it to you guys. Don't take on your spouse as a fixer-upper project. That was never the assignment here, not as a wife, not as a husband. You accepted them at the altar, court, wherever you got married, as who they were. Now allow the Lord to perfect himself in their life and focus on him also perfecting himself in your life. May that be your focus, being the best wife or the best husband you can be, and letting the Lord continue to work on your spouse, because fixing them, putting them together, that is not what we're called to do. So God bless you guys. I really do pray that your marriages, your perspective may shift, your marriages may become stronger, and that the Lord may be able to speak to your life personally, maybe to your spouse as well throughout these episodes. I know that every experience lived, it's for a reason. So that's why I'm happy to share, our rough beginning, because there was a lot within that. Had we not experienced that, I wouldn't have gotten to share this perspective, right? My perspective shifted and becoming better because we went through that really rocky road. So don't be discouraged if you are finding yourself in a place in your marriage where you're there, right? You're in a rocky road. It's never too late. Never too late to shift your perspective, to go to God and depend on him, to surrender yourself to the Lord and really just allow him to have his way in your life and in your marriage. So I pray that these episodes may be of a blessing to you guys. Stay tuned for the next one. It'll be a really, really good one that you don't want to miss. So thank you guys. God bless you.